Good afternoon and welcome to Little Lunch Online today. A wonderful initiative of Feral Arts as part of their Arts Front project. My name is Liz Martin. I live and work on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I am the Arts Development and Training Manager at Accessible Arts, which is the peak arts and disability organisation across New South Wales. We're always seeking to ensure artists, arts workers and audiences with disability have full access and participation within the diverse arts sector. I'm also a musician with disability, performing regularly. You can follow me on, no, I'm just not going to do that to you. But I'm super keen to see our art stages opened up and more people with disability on our performing arts stages. If you're not yet connected to Accessible Arts, connect with us. We're super small but fabulous team. Really keen to meet with you and know you. If you want to learn some stuff while we're all bunkering down, you can check out our disability awareness and equity workshops, which are now online, beaming into your house. And of course, we've got all the current funding opportunities open to artists, both with and without disability, up on our websites and social media pages. So yes, do get in touch. Remember today, if you would like to make a comment, and people are already getting into it, I see, feel free to jump on into the chat and make some comments there. I have some housekeeping notes to remind you that this session is being recorded and will be available for viewing online afterwards at www.LLOL.com.au. We will be sticking to the 30-minute time frame today because of both Auslan Signing and Captioners, so we'll have to clock off bang on 12:30. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and say whose country you are on today. To access the live captioning, just click on the captions icon at the bottom of Zoom. We also have Susan from Auslan Stage left. And if you'd like to see Susan big and bold on your computer, just click on her video and then pin it. And yes, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to throw them into chat. Please keep your mics muted unless we invite you to unmute. And if there are any tech probs or feedback, please contact Arts Front, email contact@artsfront.com. That's my blurby beginning to this session. I'm so delighted and excited to introduce you to a brilliant award-winning writer, a Wongaboon woman from the Napa-speaking nation, a wheelchair user, a fabulous storyteller, and probably one of my all-time favorite writers, Gail Kennedy. Gail, I'm wondering how isolation time is for you, whether it's any different. We're friends on Facebook, and I always am under the impression that you spend a great deal of your time watching YouTube country music links and hanging out at home writing. Has your life changed much at the moment?
Not at all. The only thing that's different is I can't go to the pub and listen to live bands. But you know, no, it hasn't really changed much. I mean, I did years and years of getting up every day and going to work at a certain time, and I hated every minute of it. So now I kind of live life my way, and it's sort of topsy-turvy. I tend to be trawling around at night and sleeping during the day, which suits me. But, you know, like I kind of have the attitude of where I am is where I am, and I'm very adaptable. I think you'll find a lot of people with disabilities are very adaptable. We have to be. And a lot of us have grown up being on the outside, really, you know, and living a lot in our heads. And you'll find I think a lot of, there's probably a huge untapped market of really brilliant artists with disabilities, because really that's been the go-to for a lot of us, you know, to be creative, to write, to paint, to act, to sing. I guess it's and a lot of us make our living that way. So it's, you know, like I can do what I do anywhere at any time, which suits me really well, except when I have to get up and take myself off to a conference. But, you know.
Well, you may not have to do that in the new world, Gail. You might just be able to stream in.
Yeah, I mean, I like this. I mean, just sitting up and in bed and having a cup of tea and putting a computer in front of me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you know, it hasn't really changed much for me. But I understand for a lot of people, it must be difficult staying at home when you're used to going out. It's not really all that different for me.
I love going out and doing all that social stuff, but I am so happy to spend time at home and on my own. And it's this really personal kind of, well, obviously personal, but intimate space, like to create and to connect. It feels very soul to me. It's a very intimate time. And I'm also used to spending heaps of time recovering from surgery and so on, and fairly isolated. So I know what you mean. Like, we are adjusters to this time. Many of us are. It's a very familiar time in a lot of ways.
It is, yes, yeah. I mean, you know, I tend, as I think I've said, where I am is where I am, and it will pass. And life will go on. I think a lot of people are panicking, wondering if they're ever going to be free again. But I'm hoping that this kind of time out will give people a little more empathy for those of us that are isolated. I mean, I'm isolated a lot of times because I choose to be. I mean, I can go out whenever I want, but there are a lot of people who can't do that. I mean, I'm hoping that this time, I mean, I'm particularly hoping that, I mean, I see from my window outside, out into the park, and also the window out at the front of my house, like gatherings of white people being moved on, and gatherings of white children being moved on, and hearing them afterwards being horrified and outraged. And I feel like opening the window and going, well, now you fucking know what we've got to go through. Which is basically, you know, like we've been black people the world over and First Nations people the world over. That's our daily life. You know, being driving around and being pulled over by the police basically just because you're black. You know, so I'm hoping that maybe people will realise that this is reality for us all the time. I'm hoping that this time will teach people a little more empathy, and that it will teach them that hey, we're all human beings, and we really need to start standing up to the powers that be and say, you know, stop treating black people and First Nations people as different entities. You know, because now they will know. I mean, I know from hearing the outrage at the front from the Lululemon squad, you know, just how outraged they are, you know. I was just standing on how, you know. And so, yeah, one would hope that they would perhaps learn a little empathy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, perhaps I'm just living in hope. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it'll just be life as it will go on as it has before. But I think there's probably a few people out there that will take these lessons to heart.
Yeah, I'm hoping too that we'll learn and take this time to reflect and build awareness between each other and chill out a little.
Yes.
Wow, really, we can slow down a little bit.
God, yes, and the panic buying. I mean, we're living in Australia, you know, not in the wilds of Ethiopia. I mean, it's not as if, you know, I mean, this whole panic buying of toilet paper, you know, I mean, I was thinking, no, these people are going to get over this, but no. You know, every day you'd go in there and you couldn't get things like pasta and toilet paper.
Yeah.
I'm going, why?
Yep.
You know, poor old people, you know, being driven around all hours of the morning trying to just, you know, find a toilet paper. I have a connection, and I wound up getting a few large packs and giving them to my support worker to deliver to the old people that she looks after. You know, and just saying, just take them to them, you know, because I can't bear the idea of it, you know. But I found a lot of selfishness and greed. Really, it was really surprising to me that people would behave in such a manner.
Yeah, well, I guess fear will make you do the strangest things.
Well, exactly, and I think I wrote something maybe a couple of months ago that, you know, civilization is a very thin veneer. You know, it doesn't take much at all for people to start acting like absolute arseholes. And I think we've seen this, and you know, this whole business of you know, Australia and mateship, and we're all in this together has been shown to be not so true. You know, the emperor has no clothes. So it's yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve for me. See this kind of behaviour.
Well,
very. You know.
One of my favorite things to do during COVID, or regardless of COVID, pretty much at any time, one of my favorite things to do is hang with friends, be it on Zoom or on the phone, or from a safe 2-3 minute distance in the park. But hang with friends and swap stories and tell stories and try to outdo each other and laugh and make each other feel better and kind of hold each other up a little bit. And when I read your book, Me, Ant-Man and Fleabag, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like I knew you. I felt, which I didn't at the time, but I felt like I knew you. I felt like you were my new best friend, and like we were just spending time having a yarn together, and you were letting me into your life and your experience, and so much I could relate to.
Good. Yeah.
So we are nearly halfway through, so we should I should shut up and ask you, Gail, would you please read to us a story from your short story book there?
I'll read the first story, which is actually how the book actually started. I wrote this for the Inner City Life competition and it won. But I liked the characters so much that I just decided to keep going. So this one, it was all about how black fellas keep getting moved along all the time when they're just sitting down in the park. They just want to, you know, have a picnic, have a glass of wine, you know, the dog run around, and, you know, the police are always, you know, always moving them along. But, you know, I live in Balmain, and I'm down at the park all the time with my dogs, and we're not being moved along. And the white people were drinking and wine, but they were drinking them in fancy bottles and everything. So I just wrote this as part of it. I was gobsmacked when it won, but it kind of started the book off and my career, really. So it's called How to Drink in the Park. Me, Ant-Man, and our mongrel Fleabag like partying outside. We both come from the bush. Me, I'm a New South Wales desert girl, and Ant-Man's mob are river people. 'Cause we ain't got no river or desert here in the city, we like sitting in the park, yarning, having a charge, playing country music. We don't cause no harm. Try telling that to the coppers. As soon as they see us, they start growling. They say, no drinking here, no music. Dog registered, stuff like that. Then you get sick of it and stay home. Reckons we go the wrong way. Reckons we give up too easy. Says white fellas ain't the enemy. Says they love drinking and partying outside too. Says they got it worked out so coppers don't bother them. He showed us how. First he shouts Fleabag, 12 months rego, and a new collar in the Koori colours. Too deadly. Then he says that dog has to have a bath. God, Fleabag bunged on. Had to drag him out from under the house. He carried on like we was murdering him. Wouldn't come near us for hours after. His guts got the better of him though, and he come in for a feed. He got over it. Smelt good too. Then we got an esky and a couple of fancy bottles of wine. Damien reckons no casks or flagons. Besides, the bottle's got twist tops now, so once you're finished, you fill them up with cheap stuff for next time. We pack a nice blanket and a picnic. Nothing fancy. Bread, cold meat, tomatoes, a big old lamb bone for Fleabag. We pile in Damien's car and head to Balmain. Damien lives there too. We pull up at this deadly park right on the harbour. Ant-Man and me are a bit nervous, but Fleabag's out of the car and belting across the grass like there's no tomorrow. There's heaps of other dogs there, but that's okay, because he's got his nuts cut out a couple of years ago, so we don't go blueing no more. We get the stuff out of the car, spread the blanket with the tucker, glasses and wine on the grass, and sit down, still nervous. Then we see all these white fellas. They're all sitting around with wine, beer and tucker too. They're having a laugh. Kids and dogs are running around. There's no trains. The harbour's shining. Boats everywhere. We pour drinks, make sandwiches. People smile at us. They pat old Flea and fuss over his fancy collar. He laps it up. And there's no coppers in sight. Ant-Man grins. Makes you want to sing, eh, Titter? Sure does, I say, and whack old Slim in the CD player. We know the drill and go every week now. Flea's used to having a tub too. Knows he's going to the park afterwards. Anyway, when we get sick of city life, we go out bush, sometimes to visit my mob or sometime Ant-Man's. Ant's the builder and he goes wherever one job finishes. I do bar work or waitressing, so I ain't tied down either. Fleabag just comes along for the ride. That's the first one.
Sorry, I had myself on mute and just started talking to you while I was on mute. I love that one. Where can people get copies of your book, Gail?
Any bookshop can order it, or it's still available online.
Yep.
It's in its second edition now, so.
It's in the second edition, did you say?
You can buy it anywhere, really. Just you can buy it, but I like to use it. Yes.
When I
kind of like it to be bought from bookshops like Glee Books.
Oh, yep.
Or, Australian booksellers.
Yep.
If at all possible. And not Amazon.
Yeah. When I first read your book, I went back online and then ordered a whole bunch and then gave them all away and then gave away my own copy. So I need to order another copy. So I'm going to do that. What are you working on at the moment, Gail?
At the moment, I'm trying to finish a memoir. It's taken me a long while because I found it very emotionally draining. I mean, I usually write fiction, and I've had to basically face up to a lot of things that I went through when I was a kid. You know, like it will stop when I'm about 21. So, and it's written in 3 parts. It's not just what I went through, but my parents as well, you know, having their first child ill and basically away from them for 2.5 years. And, you know, me turning up a stranger and to them, and they're strangers to me. And so it's, yeah, I'm, you know, I think I needed about another 6 months or so that I can finish it. So we'll see how we go. I mean, I went through very different phases of how I was actually going to write it. And I'd start, stop, it wasn't working. But now I've found a way that works. So basically, thank you, Helen Garner. I read one of her books and then I just sort of thought, oh, that's how I should be doing it.
Yeah. More
vignettes than...
Yeah, yep. Oh, I can't wait to read it. Sarah Hubolt has just asked there whether any of your stuff is available as audiobooks.
No, I've always wanted to do this as an audiobook, but I'm not really sure how to go about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that Australia really knows what to do with this book. They're not really sure because, you know, look, we've got black fellas in there drinking and having a good time and a bit of a toke here and there, and it's people overseas get it, and most Australian people get it. I mean, it's meant to be a window into the world, our world, non-Aboriginal people, and it's a book where, well, my mob and other Aboriginal people can see themselves. It's also a bit of a love letter to the Aboriginal men that I grew up with, because I found that Aboriginal men and black men in general tend to be demonised. And I find that very distressing, because that's not the kind of men that I grew up with, not the kind of men that I know. So that was really one of the reasons why I wrote the book in the first place. But I'd also like to do maybe another part 2 of Me, Ant-Man and Fleabag. And I'm also trying to put together a one-woman show to maybe go on to maybe the Sydney Festival or something, because I think that I have an unusual story, and I'd like to have some music and, you know, probably work with the drama too, but that's something that I'm looking at now as well.
There's offers coming through, Gail, just so you know. You've got an offer here. Lachlan would love to record you reading it. I think there's also a couple of comments that people are ready to hear it. They're ready to hear your voice. They're ready to hear the stories as an audiobook. So maybe that's actually may well be a great idea.
I think it would be great. I mean, it comes alive when it's being read. A lot of people don't... I mean, it's written in the lingo and in a certain voice. And so an audiobook would be perfect. I mean, I could read another short one if you like.
That would be great. We're at, it's now 24 minutes past 12, and we will cut out at 12:30, but we'd love another short story, Gail. That would be fabulous.
Okay. This one's called Ma and Dad's Big Trip. My Ma and Dad went on the Indian Pacific and the Ghan up to Alice Springs. It was first class all the way. They had a fancy cabin and they had all their meals in the flash dining room. All the way from home to Alice and back again. They was drinking top shelf grog and there was a chef preparing 4-star tucker. Most of it looked like that, just like that food you see in them flash magazines or on one of them cooking shows on the telly. Anyway, after a couple of days, Ma got sick of eating all that fine food, hated all the sauces, and hated the way they stacked everything up. She used to get wild when they put her meat on top of the chips. What stupid bastard come up with that idea? Don't they know it makes the chips soggy? She reckoned the tucker was so fancy you couldn't tell what the fuck you was eating half the time. Anyway, this day she'd had a gutful. So when the waiter comes up and asks them what they were having, oops, should have been better prepared for that. What they was having for lunch, Dad orders up fancy like a big man. Then the waiter turns to Ma and says, "And what would Madam like to eat today?" Ma looks up at him and says in her sweetest voice, "Well, you know, I wouldn't mind having something nice and simple. You know, like chops, tomato, and some lettuce." The waiter looks at Ma and says, "I'll see what I can do, Mrs. Harris. I can't promise anything, but I'm sure our chef would be only too happy to accommodate you." "I'm sorry to be a nuisance," Ma replies, "but I would appreciate it, love." So the waiter comes back with the tucker. He's got Dad's fancy feed of veal provençal with herb cream noodles and a warm side salad. And for Ma, he's got a rack of lamb, cherry tomatoes, and a handful of rocket. He bungs it down in front of her with a flourish. "There you go, Mrs. Harris. I think you'll enjoy this." After the waiter leaves, Ma looks down at the tucker in disgust and starts poking at it and moving it around on her plate. "Look at the size of these fucking tomatoes, will you?" she says to Dad. "And what kind of lettuce is this supposed to be?" "I don't know, Beryl. Anyway, stop making a fuss and eat the fucking thing." "I don't think I will," Ma reckons. "I mean, Roy, we paid a lot of money to come on this trip. You think they could serve up some decent-sized tomatoes? And another thing," she says, turning the rack of lamb this way and that, "would it have killed him to cut up the chops?" And that's it.
Thanks, Gail. So good to hear you reading. There's so many comments here. People want it as a they want you to read. They want you to record it. I think today, surprisingly, we're gonna make it happen.
Audio book pages. I think it would work really well.
Yeah.
Audio book.
The short book that Gail's been reading from today is called Me, Ant-Man and Fleabag. Please jump online straight after this and order a bunch of copies from your local bookstore. That way you support the local bookstores and you support Gail Kennedy and brilliant Australian writers such as Gail. So good. Thank you so much, Gail. It was just such a pleasure to hear you reading. There is Hot Brown Honey is back for tomorrow's lunch. So see you here again tomorrow at midday. Love your work, people. Have a great time out there. Take care. Stay safe. Eat too much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Bye. Now what happens? Does it just stop?
It just goes on forever, Gail.
No, I'll stop the live recording, the live YouTube for you now.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone.